Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're still in the car. Mornings are so crazy right now. I got to figure out how I'm going to manage this with both channels and actually trying to increase my effort. Back to the topic of single concept voting. You know, it's a really funny thing for me right now, but the idea here is that the concept of liberty is antithetical to and opposed by many progressives. I talk to people, you know, I can't figure out how this shift happened, but I've talked to a lot of people who have just shifted in the past decade significantly. Now, I know that some of this has to do with my age group, with the cohort that I'm a part of. I'm 50 years old, and you know, I'm dealing with people in my age group, the Gen Xers, who have suddenly decided that progressivism and giving up individual liberty is great because they're scared of getting old. Okay? Now, suddenly, healthcare is more important than the freedom to go hike, to the freedom to just buy your car. You're like, liberty doesn't matter. It's all now, oh, you're responsible to society for taking care of me. It's like the baby boomer problem, but I don't know, I guess it's worse because I can see it directly. Like, these are people I went to high school with, friends that I've had for decades. You know, now suddenly it's all about healthcare. It's all about how evil, and this is the thing, is it's never about positives. It's never about let's work on a healthcare improvement. Let's get some stuff happen. It's always about negative. It's always phrased with the evil Republicans want to deny you. Like the current Supreme Court hearing nomination process. It's all about negatives, you know. It's not, you can't say anything positive about adopting orphans. That has to be inherently bad and negative. And how do you get there? I don't know. But back to it, I am a concept voter, and the concept is liberty. And that is a really hard one, especially since I'm an imperialist. But, you know, it does quite often boil down to Second Amendment issues. There's nothing about common sense in gun control, because there's never an answer that is going to open up and relieve stupid laws. Stupid laws where you have to jump through stupid hoops to do stupid things, to give the government stupid money so that you can go shoot a gun, are never considered actually wrong by the common sense gun control crowd, because every complication, every cost is considered a positive deterrent to gun ownership. And that's one of the problems here, is that what they want is everyone to have no guns. That is the actual goal. There's no one there, you know, they're like, well, maybe you should be allowed to have your hunting stuff if you're one of those people who hunts. But that's even that's not a positive. You know, it's a begrudging allowance for a certain relatively harmless eccentricity. It's not a positive, it's not a statement of a civil liberty. It's pretty much the same thing with speech now. You know, maybe we should allow some eccentricity in certain people if they're the right people. But the idea of actual, absolute, protected individual liberty, freedom of speech, is pretty much gone from, well, it's gone from progressivism. It's counter. Here you are, basic thing. You're a progressive. You oppose free speech. It's just part of things. I don't get it. I won't accept it. You know, oh, but free speech enforces white privilege, or free speech is not handled equitably, or free speech doesn't promote racial equality, or free speech means free speech for anything that's not hate speech. No, it's either free speech or it's not. There's a very close to a binary situation with that, you know. I'm not one of the people who believes that there can be no firearms regulation at all because shall not be infringed is an unambiguous term. Like, I understand strict scrutiny. I understand if the government can show that a restriction is the least onerous possible and serves a very specific public good that cannot be achieved any other way, then okay, yeah, we can. There's certain things that we can do. None of our gun control laws really meet strict scrutiny, and that's kind of a problem. Most of them don't even try, and that's a serious problem. But strict scrutiny applies to the First Amendment as well, and the Fourth Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment, and the 10th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment. There's a whole lot going on here with the idea of concept voting. It looks like single-issue voting because it's always going to be obvious when there's a Second Amendment issue or a First Amendment issue. Okay? And so it looks like single-issue voting, but it's much more single-concept voting. And I ask people questions. I ask people questions about how they feel about the Fourth Amendment and electronic surveillance. What's the mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment? And I get a lot of non-comprehension from politicians and even state elected judges. They really just don't get the concept. So that's fine. Not everyone is supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to have a multidisciplinary set of doctorates, like a folder full of doctorates in every possible human endeavor to run for office. But you need to be able to listen to what I or someone else has to say and think about it and then respond to it. I get far too much non-comprehension on Fourth Amendment issues. First Amendment's pretty clear. Second Amendment's pretty clear. It tends to the more these things become publicized, the more easy it is to give a simple one side or the other side answer. Gun control good, gun control bad. Okay, free speech good, hate speech regulation, which means free speech bad. Or free speech good, media companies deserve special protections that you don't get, which is, again, free speech bad. It becomes it looks like single-issue voting, but it's really not. It's concept voting or basic philosophy voting. And again, it's funny that the Gen X, watching my friends shift slowly more progressive and become opposed to the idea of individual liberty because they want society to take care of them. And that's where it comes. It becomes your primary goal is to have a certain type of social responsibility, not individual liberty. And I'm not going to buy that. It's like the energy policy debate, We don't have a free market for energy. We can't let the best, cleanest energy win because we don't have a marketplace like that. We don't have a marketplace when it comes to energy. We have a set of government involvements, just all sorts, from subsidies to punitive taxation to regulation. We just have government involvement. And maybe that's necessary. Maybe it's inescapable. It's very possible that it's inescapable, but the thing is that if you're going to work on energy policy, you need to understand that you have to allow things to work in order for them to work. Solar and wind, we have a lot of regulations about it, and a lot of it is about keeping it out of the hands of people. And that's part of the problem with the government regulation, is that we're dealing with a system that is supposed to find green energy solutions for companies, for centralized power, for authority, not for individual people. That's a significant problem. And it boils down to, again, that whole concept of individual liberty. And I am a concept voter. And that's, it's one of those areas where the idea of energy independence is key. You can't actually do anything with really fixing pollution problems until you have energy independence. As long as other nations control your energy, you don't control your ability to change your energy. Duh. Anyway, that's supposedly a short and concise and quick video about single concept voting. And it's more than just about a specific election season. It's more of a political stance. Single concept. Do these things. Does any action, does any policy, does any position work with the concept of the primacy of individual liberty? Maximizing freedom for people. Pro-humanity. It's an interesting touchstone for me. Stay sideways and, don't become a boomer.